And that's it recording. Thanks to everyone for joining the community call this week. We've got 6 UMIPs up for consideration. Add PolygonTVL, remove SDT and SG.
I think Laurie froze.
Sorry.
Oh, I think you froze for a second.
Oh, sorry, I didn't notice. Add BRO as a collateral type. And then we've also got 2 contract upgrades for the Optimistic Oracle and the Polygon Oracle root. If we just take them in order, now for the first 3, these are all carryovers, but issues haven't been addressed. So for the UTVL, we've still got the existing. Sorry, can you see my screen? Yeah?
Yep.
We've still got the existing issues about historical data, daily granularity, and a need for the beefing up of the rationale and security considerations. I know that they were quite keen now to use the LSP contracts, and they were planning to do changes to the UMIP. I'll speak to them again and see. I don't think they're in an enormous rush, but we just keep it as is. And is everyone agreed? Cool, thank you.
I agree. I don't think any changes were made at all since last week, right? So I don't think there's really anything to talk about.
No, there's not. The next one was to remove SDT and remove SDT, DSD and SGT from the collateral currency whitelist. And we had some concerns about that, and we wanted it more broadly debated. I don't know if people have seen, but a community member has posted, who's involved with the SGT community, is saying that they are still interested in it for KPI options, and they would like to look into KPI options, and they're also investigating the rug pull that was acted against it. What's people's thoughts on this? I don't know if you've seen the message in the Discord.
I haven't seen the message in the Discord, but I'm wondering how that's possible, considering, like, I don't know if CoinGecko is reporting it correctly, but kind of the conversation we had last time with Matt on here was like, we kind of viewed this as a dead project because they have like a market cap of $10,000 now.
Mm-hmm. Oh dear. That says GT.
Yeah.
What they were saying in the message that's on Discord, it's actually in the superhuman layer, and posted a link to it in the voting channel, is that although some of the pools where ETH was staked were hacked, not all of them were, and there is still substantial value in their vaults.
Yeah, but not in the SGT token, apparently.
I think they're being optimistic that it will rise. Do we
I also don't.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, just as a small thing, I don't think any of their ETH pools were hacked. It's my understanding. It's more their token was dumped.
Oh, okay. I thought it was an actual hack in a vault, but I may have misunderstood it. The person that was saying they wanted to build KPI options did actually provide a link to an analysis of the rug pull.
I mean, I think, like, in my opinion, we should just disregard, like, if there's a a desired use case or not, and just assess the collateral currency as a collateral currency without any sort of external factors.
Mhm.
And I think the same kind of holds true as what we discussed last week, is in like, this appears to be a dead project or like a dead token, maybe not necessarily a dead project, but a dead token. And yeah.
Yeah, I agree with that. And I'd actually be like more concerned about it being a collateral type if somebody's trying to use it than if nobody's trying to use it. Like if nobody's trying to use it, it's like, oh, well, okay, I guess that's fine. But now somebody's trying to use it, and yeah, if the project's ongoing, they should launch a new token or try like something else. Because I didn't even realize it got that bad. But yeah, CoinGecko's saying it's like basically there's nothing left.
Okay. So are we go on the UMIP with no
I think
with DSD?
Yeah, well, what about like splitting it for DSD, like in a separate UPP for adjusting final fee for that, or making them together?
Yeah. I think that's what we decided last time, right? DSD seemed like it's at least like maintaining some sort of range of value, so we should just adjust the final fee instead of deregistering it.
Okay, so this is a go with DSD removed.
I think it's
Sorry,
kind of,
yes, a go with DSD removed. So it's just SGT that will be deregistered. And I'll do a UPP to update the final fee for this Wednesday.
so can we just have it as a go to deregister and also adjust the final fee? That's just two separate UPPs. It's basically a go on the entire thing, just separated.
Yeah,
Right.
I think that's what we're saying. But
So
splitting them
the
into two for
UPP
two
will
proposals.
So
Sorry.
the UPP will just go forward for a vote this time.
Yeah.
Okay, that's fine.
I think the only contingency is there's some technical work that needs to be done to write a proposal script to deregister collateral types. So
Mhm.
On
Is
it.
that a blocker on this getting passed?
say that again.
Is that a blocker on this getting passed? Does the proposal script need written before the vote can take place?
Yep.
Oh, okay.
Oh, did you say yep or no? Like I can work on that that script. And I think that we could put this up for a vote and pass it, and the script is probably not going to be that complicated. We'll need a script before we can implement it or propose it, but I think that yeah.
It's a Friday proposal date this week, isn't it? Sam, do you know?
Yeah, I think so.
Well,
I mean-
gives a slightly bit more time than if it was a Thursday one. Go on, Sean.
Yeah. I don't think it's a blocker. It's just I just wanted to bring it up to make sure everyone's aware. It's something we have to do.
Yeah.
Oh,
I'll add that
super.
one to my list.
Super.
Thanks, Sean.
Reynes, would you mind updating the assessment for the UMIP? Go.
Okay, you mean leaving both of them together be removed?
What did we have last time? So on this, it would with contingencies to remove SDT from that UMIP and introduce a new UPP updating the final fee for DSD.
Yes, I'll update this.
That's super, thank you. Oops. Okay, are we good to move on to the SDT one? number 344.
don't-
Again, mhm.
Sorry to
Sorry.
interrupt.
No, go on, Sean.
I was just going to say, I don't think we really need to talk about this, right? Because, again, no updates were made. So it's the same outcome as last week's call.
Cool. Okay. The conditions are the same as last week. So it is a
Yep.
go, but conditional on them actually updating it. The next one is to whitelist BPRO as a collateral type. Now we do actually have an omnibus collateral UMIP being written at the minute, and there was some thought given that we might actually link those together. There didn't seem to be any outstanding issues with this UMIP. What do people think? Should we go forward with it? Should we leave it till next week? Any other issues that people want brought up?
I know the B protocol guys want to have this added fairly soon, and the omnibus will only be ready by next week. So I would be in favor of having this passed as a once-off, given that it was written by them and they weren't aware that we were doing an omnibus.
Seems fair.
Yep, makes sense to me too.
So that was
That
a
also
go-
makes
Go on, sorry.
the only thing I'd say is I don't know what they're intending to do, if they're intending to create a range token or KPI options or what, but they don't have a price identifier as far as I know. So, like, I think there probably isn't too much urgency in this one, given that it wouldn't be usable really.
But for KPI options, do they really need okay, they need like KPI options price identifier, unless they're hoping for this generalized KPI options, which, right?
Yeah, conceivably they can like the binary query, but I don't know. Chandler, do you have insight into that?
From what I got, it was the binary query, and if they wanted to do something more extensive, they would have to make a price identifier. But I think from their side, they might do both, as in like have two KPI options, one with the binary option outcome and the other one with something custom. But I'm not 100% sure on that.
Okay. Well, just assessing it in a vacuum seems okay. I don't think anybody's identified any blockers.
Cool. So that goal with no contingencies.
Final fee
Okay.
looks good to me, and it is like pretty illiquid. So, but I guess that's not a problem if it's for KPI options.
Cool. And if they come back with a price identifier, then we'll know if they're planning on doing something that does require bots. Okay. Now, the last two were contract updates: register the updated optimistic oracle and register the Polygon oracle root. Nick, how would you like to take this? Would you like to take them one at a time, or would you like to take them together?
Let's do them one at a time. The optimistic oracle one's more straightforward because we've done something like this before.
Okay.
So this is PR349.
PR349. Okay. So there was a few comments left, but I don't think there was anything substantive that people raised. The only
Yes.
question was whether to deregister the optimistic oracle. Do you want to speak to that Nick?
Yeah, so this is just an upgrade to the optimistic oracle. We refactored some of the ancillary data treatment. We have sort of a soft interface such that ancillary data can always be translatable to UTF-8 format. This is just to help out any of the clients of the optimistic oracle or any of the voters. Ideally, they could like take the ancillary data, put it into a UTF-8 translator, and be able to read it. Right now, the optimistic oracle doesn't do that. It sort of spits out more arbitrary bytes, and users have to know how to decode that. So that's the main change to this optimistic oracle. And so this UMIP would point the finder to the new optimistic oracle, register this new optimistic oracle as a price requester to the DVM, and then still to be determined whether we need to unregister the old one. I'm not sure. I don't think we do. Oh, and Rainus also brought up a really good point, which is we sort of have to be a little bit careful here, where if there are any pending requests that are waiting on the old optimistic oracle to respond to them, and then we upgrade, that could cause problems if like a contract is set up in such a way that it can't resubmit to the optimistic oracle. That's not a problem with our EMP or the LSP, but there could be a third-party contract, which I'm not aware of, but theoretically there could be one. So I just think that have to be a little careful about when we upgrade. So say the vote goes through, then whenever the execute proposal transaction is called, that will actually do all the swap. That will do the swap in the finder. So we have to make sure that that execute doesn't happen when there are pending optimistic oracle requests.
Cool, thanks.
So does the swap, this actually happens during the vote, right?
Yeah, it does not happen during the vote.
Or when you execute the vote?
Yeah, so technically, once the vote goes through at 00 UTC on Sunday, if it passes, then anyone can call execute proposal. So I guess someone could like grief a contract by making that contract like make a price request and leave the price request hanging for some reason that is a problem for that contract, and then they call execute proposal. I think it's a really weird edge case, and I don't think it's a current vulnerability, but it's just something to think about.
Cool.
Everyone's just in awe of getting readable data on the settlements.
Yep.
Be good to go. Are people happy knowing that there's a very slight, tiny risk that a contract may possibly call it exactly the same moment that we execute?
I mean, it's not necessarily a risk though, right, Nick? Like you said in the UMIP review, like you could just manually request for the same price to resolve that.
Yeah, so the edge case is really particular. It's like if there's a contract that has some money that is waiting to be paid out on the result of a price request, say it makes that price request, and then for whatever reason that contract doesn't allow the price request to be resubmitted or something. Like the contract would have to be a bespoke contract that we have not implemented, and it would have to sort of shoot itself in the foot here. So I'm just not aware of any contract that does that.
Cool. Seems okay to me then.
So everyone's happy with go on that one. And then the final one is, oh, let me just put the presentation back on. The final one is registering the Polygon Oracle root tunnel. I haven't looked at this and I'm not actually sure what a Polygon Oracle root tunnel is. So if you could explain that to me, that would be great, Nick.
Yeah. So these contracts have been live for a bit, like the Optimistic Oracle, but the changes were recently audited by OpenZeppelin, which is why we're submitting them now as UMIPs. But so this root tunnel is how we communicate DVM price requests to Polygon. There's a one-to-one tunnel between two contracts, one on Polygon, one on ETH, and they're set up in such a way that the Polygon tunnel can make a price request to the DVM via this contract called the root tunnel. And so this root tunnel, therefore, needs to be permissioned to make Oracle price requests. And then going the other way, the root tunnel can publish data back to the child tunnel. So these two tunnels are aware of each other, and they're set up to communicate with each other. And once they're set, they can't be changed. So these two contracts are already set up on ETH and Polygon, and they're already communicating with each other. But the one on ETH cannot actually make a price request to the DVM. So technically, there can be live Polygon contracts right now that are set up to make mainnet price requests, but all those price requests will sort of get stopped right before they get to the DVM because that tunnel doesn't have the correct permissions. And that was originally set up for safety because we wanted to test out this tunnel a bit more and get the tunnel audited. But now that the tunnel contracts are audited, we feel comfortable fully connecting this bridge. So now if this UMIP goes through, any Polygon contract can make a price request that is ultimately secured by the DVM.
Cool. Nick, would you mind explaining to me what the difference is between a tunnel and a bridge?
I don't think they are different. I think so. We are using the term tunnel because the Polygon team refers to their canonical, like they have this arbitrary message bridge, which is the more commonly used term so all the Polygon validators, the same set of validators that are publishing data between Polygon and Ethereum, they also maintain an arbitrary message bridge that any contract can use to pass data between the two networks. And the ones who are responsible for passing that data are the same Polygon validators. So this is called the canonical message bridge because you're trusting the same set of validators that secure all of Polygon. So you're not trusting like a third party. And so they refer to their arbitrary message bridge as a tunnel. And so that's why we're calling ours a tunnel.
So it's mostly just a convention for naming to comply with there.
Yeah. Yep. So this actually, this UMIP is a follow-up to that one that I made like maybe a month ago that Rainus had a lot of really good comments on. That was called the chain bridge implementation of a message relay, but that implementation required us to run our own validator set to pass data between the two, us being Risk Labs, and that was a highly centralized solution, and we didn't feel comfortable going through with that, so we ended up nixing that and then waiting until Polygon had deployed their own arbitrary message tunnel. And so now we're going to use that. That's what this tunnel uses.
Okay, can you also shortly discuss what is the plan for these governor bridges and how that would be like used, and what kind of governor actions we expect to have on Polygon?
Yeah, so the tunnel I was describing before was the Oracle tunnel. It's set up to communicate with the DVM. There's also a governor tunnel, which right now does not have any permissions to do anything, but it's going to be a way for UMA voters. So it's going to be a way for UMA voters to pass down admin proposals to Polygon. And the way that's done is there's a governor tunnel on ETH, and there's a governor tunnel on Polygon. Right now, those tunnels have no ownerships. They have no power to do anything. So they're just these tunnels that can communicate with each other, but they can't really do anything yet. Once we move over those tunnels to have ownership, say, of the identifier whitelist on Polygon, the collateral whitelist, just give it admin powers on Polygon, then we can actually pass down admin votes from ETH to Polygon. Similarly, on ETH, we need the actual DVM governor to own the Ethereum governor tunnel on Ethereum. Right now, the governor tunnel is not owned by the governor. But once we pass that over, which we don't need an admin vote for, then it will be owned by the UMA voters.
Okay, but the direction for governance would be from Ethereum main chain to Polygon.
Yep. So that's that's a one-way bridge, one-way tunnel.
Okay, and the scope of these governing actions, they will be specific for Polygon that UMA voters would be voting.
Yeah. So actually, great point. Where in the future, since imagine there's an ERC20 on ETH, and it also has an equivalent on Polygon. Usually those addresses are different on the two networks. So UMIP voters or UMIPs in the future, if they want to both whitelist on Polygon and ETH, will have to specify an address on both of them. And so then we'll have to make 2 admin proposals for those. To be determined like how we make that efficient, but that process can change a little bit.
Do you think that we might wind up whitelisting a whole ton of collaterals on Polygon, just like a big batch?
Yeah, I think we should do that before we formally pass over ownership to the governor, just to speed things up and not have to go through another admin vote.
Just a couple of questions, Nick. When you say that it has to be, things have to be whitelisted on Polygon, it's different to being whitelisted on ETH mainnet. Should we be adding to the guidance that if you want to use stuff in Polygon, a collateral currency, and use it on Polygon, that you need to have a Polygon token address?
Yes, you will need that. So the identifiers, you don't need an extra identifier for Polygon, but you do need an extra collateral address because technically it's a completely different token.
Mm-hmm.
Well, only once the governor privileges have been handed over, right?
Yeah. Right now it's centralized, and the identifier whitelist and the collateral whitelist on Polygon is owned by a Risk Labs account for the sake of just getting it off the ground. So like the Risk Labs has not decided yet whether we're going to whitelist anything ahead of time or whether we're going to do anything ahead of time before we pass over ownership. Right now, that identifier whitelist is empty and the collateral whitelist is empty. So yeah, we still need to have a conversation about that, but that sort of doesn't have anything to do with this specific UMIP.
And you said there would be no changes to the price identifier.
Yep.
So for price identifiers, you would use the address, not the Polygon address. Would that have any implications if the tokens were trading at different prices on Polygon and on ETH mainnet?
Which token prices?
Our token that happened to have one version on ETH mainnet, one version on Polygon.
So no new UMA. There's no new UMA tokens.
There's no what?
There's no new UMA voting tokens.
No, no, no. I'm talking about if somebody wanted a price,
Mm-hmm.
and they were using a price identifier, but
Mhm.
only had ER20 contract addresses or identifiers. There was no reference to the Polygon tokens, but the Polygon tokens were trading at slightly different prices.
Yeah,
that-
I imagine in that case you would ignore the Polygon price. Like I imagine UMIPs would specify when they specify, say, get a price from a Uniswap market, they specify the address of the Uniswap market. And maybe in the future we make them say which chain they're talking about. Like you're talking about Uniswap on Ethereum or Uniswap on Optimism or Uniswap on Polygon. I just think that specification probably has to go into UMIPs going forward since all these chains are getting built.
Yes,
Well,
but
I think it would. Sorry, I was just gonna say, like, I'm not sure about that because I feel like you just try to find the best price. So I don't see that much difference between like the tokens on Polygon versus the tokens on Binance. So like if a lot of the trading volume moved to Polygon, it's sort of like, unless you specifically want like only the price that's on like Uniswap, which is kind of a specific thing. I think that you would just go with like, here's the best price. This is the canonical whatever token on Polygon. So if 90% of the trading volume's on Polygon, that's probably the price.
Yes, but in that situation, probably also the price identifier UMIP would need to be adjusted to take that into consideration that the conditions have changed.
Yeah, and I guess that's like a question of how do we go back and rebalance like what markets we should be looking at. And I think that also plays in with some of the generic crypto pair UMIP stuff that we've been working on, where you might be able to specify which market you want to look at in ancillary data. It would be one of those kind of things. There might also be some value in just having like some set of canonical token matching like address things, like some list that we're keeping track of, especially once we're on like 5 or 6 chains. If you want to add a collateral type and there's like a bunch of chains where it's all active, we might want to rewrite those proposal scripts if that's feasible, to just say like, here are all the chains that it's on, like the addresses on different chains, and then like execute on all of them, versus like 5 proposals for each collateral type, which would get kind of wild. I don't know how feasible that is, but we might want to do that. And that would also help with price identifiers, I think.
The other question I had for you, Nick, is that you said this is a one-way bridge. So it only
The
goes...
governor
Yeah,
one is a
the
one-way
governor
bridge.
one. Presumably, if you wanted to institute voting on a layer 2, you would have to have it going the opposite way.
Yeah, but you'd also need a voting token on layer 2.
And
So
I know there's another range of issues, but I'm just wondering about possibilities. Would it be possible to make it two-way?
Yeah. We
In
deploy
theory.
another contract, I think. Like
Okay.
I think we just deploy the same tunnel, but just reverse.
Oh.
What would be the advantage of layer 2 voting? Just lower gas costs?
Yeah, lower gas costs, but then there's a whole headache of getting voting tokens on there or having like a representation of your voting share.
Yeah.
It's definitely like a possibility.
Optimistically proposed snapshot.
Yeah, you could do that. Yeah, we could do snapshot too.
Yeah,
also,
layer
like,
1
votes-
snapshot on layer 2.
Votes should also be less frequent. Like that, well, that's what we're trying to do. So I'm not too worried about moving voting itself to layer 2.
You also note in the UMIP that the child tunnel can only be set once.
Yep.
Why is that? Doesn't that kind of hurt upgradability? Like if we wanted to redeploy the child tunnel?
Yeah, we would just redeploy it. I think it's actually more secure for users because there's no possibility of a rug pull. Like there's no possibility that the tunnel could suddenly point to another tunnel that is pointing to some bogus oracle.
But in that case, also, for example, on Polygon, optimistic oracle contract needs to be changed as well, or it only just points to the new tunnel?
So that there's also an optimistic oracle deployed to Polygon. So the reason why there's no additional UMIPs on the Polygon side is because there's no governor on Polygon right now that has all the power. It was all a centralized account that set up everything on Polygon.
But I think maybe Reynes, to your point, I don't think the optimistic oracle needs to be upgraded because it'll use the finder to like find the new thing.
Okay, that's
Yep, that's right.
Very cool.
Yeah. So
Excellent.
technically, there's like an oracle on Polygon. In the same way that the oracle on ETH is the DVM, the oracle on Polygon just happens to be the tunnel that bridges everything back to ETH. So the contracts can look the exact same on Polygon. They just don't know they're actually interacting with the tunnel.
Very cool, fine. Thanks. I really appreciate your time today, Nick, and giving us an overview of the two UMIPs.
Yeah, take a look at the UMIPs and post any questions before when the vote would be Thursday. So anytime before then.
That was all 6 UMIPs. Is there anything else people want to raise?
Not from my side.
Yep, all good here.
Cool. Well, thank you very much for everyone for attending. I really appreciate it, and I'll see you next week. Bye.
all right.
See ya.
Thank
See you,
you.
everyone.
Bye.